Hey everybody, Taylor Lyles with the Greenville Home Builders Association, and this is the Think Big podcast. Good morning, Drew. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on the Think Big podcast. You know, building industry growth is the key of the Think Big podcast, and being a luxury custom home builder in our market, I'm excited. Also, the 2024 Home Builders Association president of the HBA, excited. That year's about to be over.
Yes, it is. It's been a good one, though.
You feel like you've accomplished what you came into?
Yeah, I love working with everybody on the board. We keep growing. We have people that show interest in being part of our group. A lot of that has to do with your leadership as well, and it's been fun to be included.
Yeah. So, all right, so we know you're Drew. Tell us a little bit about what you do, company you're with.
So our company's called Fairview Custom Homes. We're a luxury custom home builder, mostly focusing on the mountain communities in western North Carolina and mostly South Carolina and Lake Keowee. So we're a second generation family business. We started in 2004 on Lake Keowee, putting development in there, and then have since grown to build houses in all 7 Cliffs communities and the Reserve, as well as Greenville. So we started doing that when I was in college, and I would come back on the summers and work with my dad and my brother. Then I was already signed up to do the military thing, so I did slate for pilot, did that for 11 years, and during that time encouraged my brother, if he wasn't going to go military, to consider carrying on the family business. So he did construction science at Clemson and really enjoyed the program and did well with the company and wanted me to come join with him. So that opportunity was on the table when I finished my minimum service requirement of 11 years. My wife and I discussed, do we want to keep doing this and work to get a command of a squadron, or do we, and that would involve a lot more deployment. We just had our first child. Or do we want to go to South Carolina and join the family business? And she voted for that, so that's what we did. I submitted a request for resignation from my commission to the president to be allowed to resign, because all officers serve at the pleasure of the president. Most people don't know that for the duration of their careers. And we transitioned out and joined the family business here in Greenville, where I work in partnership with my brother Chris, and I do the business development and the business support for all things that we need to do. Chris does our field supervision and project management overview with the team. So I enjoy doing it, and that's a little bit of the history.
What year did Fairview become reality?
Well, my dad started in 2004. Chris and I partnered in 2017, and that's when I got out of the Navy and joined him. So we formed our own LLC as a continuity for what our dad was doing, and have been at it ever since.
So has Fairview always been luxury custom homes since inception?
Yes, and that's driven by the highest and best use of the land where we mostly build. We find that in mountainous real estate, which we have in western North Carolina and in the upstate of South Carolina, like any mountain, if you have snow, you have ski resorts. If you have ore, you mine it. If you don't have either of those, most people put it into conservation, and that's what we see all around our area. Lots of national forests, we see lots of state parks, things like that, preserved lands. That creates an opportunity, because now you have low density, beautiful views, pristine mountain vistas, and this created an opportunity for visionary people like Jim Anthony, founder of the Cliffs, and the founders of the Reserve on Keowee, to develop some of that land in a way that captures the prospect of the wellness lifestyle and the views. So that's obviously going to require more infrastructure for roads and runoff management and gating in the community and doing curb and gutter for something that large. So that usually drives larger lot sizes and more expensive price points. Fortunately, they've been successful in that vision, which started back in the 80s, and have attracted a lot of people from all over the country that want that healthy living experience. And one of the big amenities that has drawn people is the golf courses that actually do work out pretty well in mountains. You do get a lot of those uneven lies, ball below your feet, that kind of thing, which is great training and challenge. But You get great views too. And so that draws people to spend more, to have larger properties and be a part of a membership that might have multiple, in the case of the Cliffs, 7 different memberships in one. So that's drawing people from all over the country, and it created an opportunity for us.
So for those that are listening that don't know what the Cliffs is, so kind of this live, work, play mindset. How many lots are in Mountain Park?
So Mountain Park has roughly 350 platted lots unbuilt and about the same number that have been built on.
Okay. So total 700 lots.
Right.
That's a huge development.
It's the newest development and still have plenty of room to add new lots. They just added, I think, 12 more on Cherokee Rose Trail and have future expansion potential. So Jim Anthony started with Cliffs of Glassy and gradually bought parcels from the family living there. This was considered the dark corner of South Carolina, so whiskey distilleries all around, illegal operations here and there, people living off the land as best they could. But he had a vision. He worked for Bell South, and he saw the views, and he had some experience doing some small real estate developments, and gradually he bought more and more land, got more and more partners, and next thing you know, he's got 7 communities, all with their own golf course, their own clubhouse, tennis courts in most cases, some with pools, some on the lake, some in the mountains. And put that all together, you have a very robust amenity suite for people that's all within 45 minutes of a center point of a radius. So you got equestrian, you've got trails, you've got kayaking, you've got the George Hincapie operation out of, which is cycling. They do the Grand Fondo event. There's boating. There's all sorts of extracurriculars in the mountains around here. So it does attract a lot of people. It's a great value, and that's why we are there to serve their needs.
What is the typical build range for Fairview?
On price point?
Yeah.
So when I started, we were probably seeing houses average about $1 million for the house, exclusive of the land. At this point, the starting point is around 1.6, 1.7 for the house itself, and the average is around in the mid twos probably. But they go all the way north of 7, 8 million. There really is no upper limit if the customer has expensive taste and really want what they want. And a lot of our clients have a budget that they're trying to adhere to. So a big part of what we do is to try to assist them in their goals. And then others, they really want the particular feel or experience in the second home or third home for them. And they're driven by the design characteristics more so than the budget. And we have to serve them as well. So we try to be flexible and really get to know what their preferences are when we are talking budgets.
Perfect. So that's a great segue into kind of when a client contacts you. What does that timeline look like, build process? What is the Fairview way, per se, from a client's start to finish? What does that look like?
So my military background wants me to try to shoehorn people into a process because it's efficient. What I've had to learn in this business is we are here to provide service on the time frame that these customers want it, which could be very long. We just broke ground in a house that we've been under contract for 7 years. So, every year we came back thinking we might start this house, and we've been trying to model our cash flow, but based around expected volume, it's somewhat difficult in this environment to do that. But our customers, they have a lot going on. In many cases, they're CEOs, or they're finishing up and selling a business, or they have other houses in other markets they're dealing with, or family events come up, weddings. And so we understand that we're not the most important thing in their world, and we have to be ready when they are ready to get started. So they may, clients that are not under contract may do extensive discussions with us for several months and then go quiet for a year and a half and then suddenly come back and say, I bought a lot and I'm ready to build. When can we start? So that's not uncommon. But we also have folks that have a more deliberate start to finish. They have an idea of when they want to buy the lot, when they want to get started. So it really can range. But let's just take a hypothetical. Somebody wants a second home in the mountain region, and they've contacted the Cliffs real estate team. They've seen a couple of lots. They want a builder's perspective on what are the challenges or opportunities on these lots. How would you compare them? And that's probably the biggest value we bring in the early stage, is to assess where the challenges are on a given topographical site. Building in the mountains is inherently inefficient. So the challenge is, how do we get access to the front of the house and the garage from the road? And most of the lots fall away from the road and they fall towards the view, which is great. That's the way they're designed, so that the back of the house has a huge commanding view. So how do we get down that slope into a flat area for the car and the garage slab, which ideally was on flat terrain? Sometimes we have to carve that out with retaining walls, but helping them to picture that within the confines of a wooded lot that hasn't been staked out yet is the goal. So we do a site plan for them. We show them how those contours will set up well for the rough orientation of the house that they hopefully have given us some parameters of how big they want the house to be. And we can tell them this lot's not going to work for that type of house, but this one could. Or, we kind of work with whatever we've been given to try to help them reduce the variables and move forward with the lot purchase. Once they've got a lot and they say they're ready to start design, then we have to figure out what level of service they're looking for in that side of it. Some people want a very high service level of architecture, and we align them with a good partner in that regard, and that can take anywhere from 6 to 24 months to finalize a design, and lots of back and forth with perhaps both partners in a couple on key features, and then value engineering and trade-offs with cost versus finish. And we understand that's a big part of it. Or they say, I want 3,200 square feet. I like that floor plan. Here are the materials that I like. Can you basically put this package together and help me advance the decision on if I'm ready to build this or not? And we can do that pretty quickly. So that could be more like 3 or 4 months from signing a contract to breaking ground if they really have decisions made. Most of our customers say, I've built custom homes before, but I've never built anything nearly as custom as what this turned out to be. And so why is that? Most places where custom homes are built are on flat lots.
Yep.
So you can go into a design center. You can pick from 50 or 80 different plan sets that are already done, already quantified. Takeoffs are done. There's high density volume in that area because of the flat ground. So that means there's a lot of subcontractors that have fixed purchase order pricing per foot on everything that they do. They've got big crews. They can add another project. And so they're competing on price on everything. So efficiencies of scale happen in places where lots of building happens. In the mountains, it's the opposite. The subs know that just like the builders, their subcontracts could have gaps in time, or they could get triple the amount they were supposed to do from one builder next month, and they have to figure out a way to source that, and they have to drive an hour and a half to get to the job site each time. And so you add all those things in, and there's more variables at play. So helping our clients to understand what it's going to take to achieve their vision is all about what we do. I kind of see it like being a wedding planner. We're going to...
That's a dangerous term to use there.
It is. But they have a special event in mind. They want a particular menu. They want a particular special music or entertainment. They want a venue that's going to work well. They want flowers and balloons, and getting all of those variables put together into a finished product that they're really happy with is our goal.
Let's get real for a second. Are you dumping money into marketing but barely seeing any results? Go Digital can help. Using their marketing matrix, they zero in on your target audience and engage them where it matters the most. Go Digital acts as your full-service marketing team, saving you the hassle and cost of building an entire in-house team or trusting random gurus you found on the internet. It is also important to note that they don't just serve home service businesses. They own one. They've been in your shoes. They know what works because they've lived it. Wondering why I know so much about them? It's because I've been a client for them over a year, and I couldn't be happier with the results. So if you're ready to start winning more leads for less, hit the link in the show notes and schedule a free 20-minute consultation today. That's fantastic. So knowing that build process and knowing you're dealing with a little higher end clientele, when Fairview builds a house, South Carolina's got your building code standards. I know you're building above that. What are some of the things that Fairview does that kind of says, hey, we're taking this extra step?
So this would go back to a legacy that my dad set for us. When we moved to South Carolina in 1994, he found a site on Paris Mountain that would require a basement type of floor plan with a walkout lower level, sometimes called a terrace level. That was not very common in the 90s in South Carolina, and most houses were built on, and still are built on, a crawl space foundation with cinder blocks. So they use concrete blocks, build a floor system on that, and then usually it was unconditioned, or even nowadays they condition them. But very, very few people had any experience in pouring concrete for a basement foundation. Now, we came from Ohio, where everybody has a dugout basement, and there's 4 concrete walls on all sides, and you have a sump pump and everything. That just wasn't common here, but he knew that's what he wanted, and so he kind of assisted the builder at the time in how to pull that off and thinking through the engineering of it. And he brought that philosophy with him when he started building out at the Cliffs. Every one of our houses has a poured concrete foundation, which has become the norm. In the 90s, we didn't have equipment or trades that could really do that, but now it's not uncommon to see not just 1, but 2 concrete pumping trucks on a given job site. So the mixer comes, pours the concrete into the pump truck. The pump truck has this long articulating boom with a hose on it that pumps it to somewhere further down the job site.
Yep.
Could be the lower slab or the walls, but maybe sometimes we have to have another pump truck down there that pumps it even further down the site. So it's pretty complicated operation, but now we've got plenty of infrastructure for doing that, and it's the norm. So poured concrete foundation is one. We do 2x6 exterior wall dimensions. You can save on lumber by doing 2x4s, and many people build that way. Does not say it's a bad house, but Dad has always wanted us to have a higher quality of sound insulation and energy efficiency. We always use spray foam. We've never done a house, to my knowledge, with fiberglass bats. We sometimes use fiberglass bats on the interior walls for sound modification, but on the outside it's always spray foam. We pour the foundation under the front porch as well. So when you dig a foundation out and you dig the hole for the basement, then you bring in concrete forms, and there's a gap between the form and the undisturbed earth.
Yep.
Once the wall forms and solidifies, you pull those forms off, and you've got a gap that has to be filled. Now you can fill it with stone, which is expensive, or you can backfill it with clay. And the history in this region has been a lot of people backfill with clay, and they compact it, and then they put a footer for the front porch on that compacted earth, and it's good for 15, 20 years. But after a while, it eventually starts settling and starts cracking, and somebody has to come in and fix it because it looks bad. So Steve did a lot of those fixes back in the early 2000s and said, from now on, we're just going to pour foundation walls all the way around that porch. So there is no chance of it settling. And what you end up having in the inside of the house in the basement is a wine room or a safe room or, a cool gun storage room or something like that. So that's been a cool feature that he's always insisted on. Other things that we do, we use Zip System for our exterior sheathing, and it's a high level industry product that ensures low water penetration, and it's just a better envelope for the house than your typical plywood or house wrap that you might see. It also looks a lot better during construction, and these houses are often have exposed exterior sheathing for 6 to 8 months, and so you don't want to see house wrap flapping around.
Of course.
You just want to have a squared away looking job site that looks safe and like people care about it. So we do that on the roof and the walls in most cases. Not every case, but that's a standard for us. Those are some of the probably highlights.
So thinking about, we're structurally building a better house with the 2x6 exterior walls, poured foundations, poured slabs, the whole 9 yards. How about technology based? So I know you've got some partners that you work with. They come in, they're already thinking 4 or 5 years ahead on technology, from house lighting to audio video to upgraded cat wire to, we walked through a house that you did that had a full swing golf simulator in it. I'm sitting there going, I'm going to spend all of my time in here. I'm not going to be in the rest of the house. There's a gun room next to it, and there's a full swing simulator. I mean, you've got everything. So touch on that a little bit if you want to. Are you pushing your trades to come up with even more creative ideas to bring more value to the client?
There's an interesting trade-off with being cutting edge in technology and with the subs versus production reliability and what's tried and true, what works. Good corollary to my military experience. In the Vietnam era, helicopter pilots could maintain the aircraft and fly it and do everything required. So they'd fly it back from a mission. They would personally patch up the sheet metal bullet holes in the side. They'd refill the ammunition. They'd top off the oil. They would tune up the gearboxes, and they'd be flying it the next day. By the time that I flew the Black Hawk off of a super carrier, we had a team of about 15 people outside the aircraft watching us start it up, while we had 5 people inside the aircraft tuning up all the systems and making sure everything checked out. We had people that were assigned to bolt on the machine guns and do the ammunition to make sure that was secure, or the missiles, ordnance pin. We had gearbox specialists, we had transmission specialists, we had seat specialists, which really mattered if you were flying the Admiral or somebody important around. Extra
I can
seats.
imagine, yeah.
You had search and rescue equipment specialists, you had aviation technology, like we call them ATs, and they did a lot of the wiring harnesses and the computer connections with the targeting pod or the navigation software. And then you had electronic specialists, and you had crypto specialists that had radio secret codes so you could talk in secret to other people and no one could hear what you're saying. So many different expertise levels broken out, any one of which could down the mission. So unfortunately, the pilots could no longer be the mission for all of it. So I tend to be someone who sees value in keeping things somewhat simple. We've kind of reached we reached a point in the home automation that got a little bit excessive, and it was really hard to keep things programmed on servers when you had power outages here and there or surges in the system, and you had to bring back a technician just to get your Wi-Fi running again or your remote cameras. Some of that has become more simplified as the technology's matured. We do see a lot of labeling on light switches, which is helpful, I think, instead of flipping a bunch of them and trying to figure out which one. You know exactly which one, and you can actually pre-program scenes. So you can push a button and all the exterior lights that are beautiful and uplight and garden lights, they all come on instead of each different switch. Or you can program, I want entertaining on the main level. And so your living room, your den, your kitchen, all the lights come on, and there's one button to turn them all off when it's all done. I really like those adaptations. And so yeah, we partner with trades that can bring some of those familiarity to the table with their expertise and let them talk with clients about the value. I had one client who really loved this sort of thing and offered to be the pioneer for some new low voltage technology and wanted to promote that within his neighbors. But there hasn't been as much interest with the neighbors as we thought. So you never know exactly what's going to matter to people, and that's why, unfortunately for us, everything is custom, and it comes down to figuring out what they want and finding a solution to achieve it.
Yep. Builders, trades, realtors. If you're looking for a flooring partner you can trust, look no further. I'm here to tell you about All About Flooring. All About Flooring is a family-owned business with 3 generations of owners that know the flooring business inside and out. They work in residential and commercial projects for both new builds and remodels by providing high-quality customer service and installation for carpet, area rugs, hardwoods, laminate, luxury vinyl, and more. Y'all, they even provide professional carpet, tile, and upholstery cleaning. At All About Flooring, they're more than just a flooring provider. They're your partner in delivering top-tier results that your customers will absolutely love. You can find their website linked in the show notes or visit their 9,000 square foot showroom at 2111 North Pleasantburg Drive. Now, let's get back to the show. So that's a second segue to kind of what I wanted to talk about to start to wrap the podcast up. So military background, you've got checks and balances, you've got your processes and procedures, and you've got many hands that take care of everything now. So from a leadership standpoint, how have you taken that military mindset and applied it into Fairview?
First, I'll say that I was concerned coming out of the Navy that I wouldn't have much to contribute to small business, not having a long background in construction. And fortunately, I would encourage anyone who's leaving the military to not doubt themselves. One beautiful thing about military, we'll call it systems, is that they've been refined over decades and decades of high-intensity operations with a lot of scrutiny from people and a large leadership chain. So over time, they've developed very useful techniques on building response plans, architecture for making decisions, boiling down a bunch of unknowns into an actionable strategy, and they implement that at every level. So whether you're a basic watchstander patrolling your encampment out in the field, or you're standing watch on a ship and a weapon system, there is a way that you record events that happen, and you know when you reach a threshold that you need to alert someone higher up the chain. And you know what decisions you're allowed to make and which decisions need to go up the chain. I see the same thing happening in construction all the time. And so seeing that systems and checklists help people more efficiently move through the unknowns to solve for X, I think that's directly applicable. So I feel like I got a robust front-hand view of what it's like to brief an admiral, because he's got to brief his boss. And he's going to ask questions that he's learned over, or she's learned over 30 years of bringing an answer to a problem and not having the full answer and the boss yelling at them. And then they learn, okay, well, I got to ask this too. And if that doesn't work, what's the secondary and tertiary plan? And what governs the rules that confine this? So the same methodology applies in small business. The difference being, in small business, you probably wear more hats than you did in the military. In the military, they move you around different jobs. So you might be in operations one year, the next year you're in maintenance or safety or in tactics or strategy or admin and legal. But they give you a good exposure of all those different components so that one day you can be a squadron CO or a major command officer where you're overseeing all those necessary functions for a larger unit. So small business, I find that I do a lot of that stuff. I'm HR, I'm accounting, I'm new hires, I'm insurance broker, I am operations manager. I am probably a bunch more that I'm not thinking of that are just germane to what we do. Legal is definitely a big one too. LLC structure, filings, tax returns, audits. It's nonstop. But I found that I like the opportunity that comes with, because I can come up with my own strategy to be efficient.
Yep.
Which always felt like something that was an opportunity for me. In the military, the upside is you have some predictable expectations and compensation. The downside is those who work harder don't get any additional compensation unless they make rank early, which in the early years is hard to do. It's very regimented. So the opportunistic folks, the ones that are entrepreneurial, oftentimes do what I did, which was seek opportunities in the private sector, especially if we're not in a crisis where all hands on deck are needed. But that comes with risk and uncertainty and sleepless nights and real challenges and personnel issues. And the last thing I would add about correlation to military on the personnel side is it was my experience that in every small unit, you had a wide sprinkling of attributes in the constituents. And even if you had a group of Navy SEALs or Navy pilots, where you think the ethos and the mentality of all these people are going to be very peculiar to the average population, you still saw a wide range. You saw somebody who was natural at throwing parties and raising camaraderie of the group and was the cool guy in the room. You had someone else who was technically oriented and really could program the weapon system quickly when others had a hard time grasping the procedures. You had someone else who was really conscientious about how we administer our classified material program and would never let us get caught with a sloppy procedure there. And that's important too. And then you had other people that were naturally good operators and good pilots, or it just came quickly to them. And other people that were cool under pressure, and you could just look to them for leadership, and they may lack the other things, but in that moment they could stand up. So I found every squadron I was in, I was a flight instructor, so I got to see different squadrons. They all had somebody that fit those categories. And I'm sure the same is true with every Marine platoon or SEAL platoon out there. All those different components make up a whole, and it's really important to find ways to feature the skill sets of those people in ways that they're going to flourish. Because they're not everybody, even in our business, comes with the same natural abilities or drive or attitude. So you want to put people in positions to be successful while developing them in the areas that they're not as good at, and then constantly like reworking the team to get more output out of what's there.
Yep.
I find that to be a direct correlation.
I love it. Military to small business owner doing luxury custom homes is fantastic. Drew, thank you for your time today. It's been a great podcast. I'm sure that everybody listening got a ton of content off of it. If they want to check you out, if they're a consumer or a realtor, where can they find you?
Our website is fairviewllc.com, and you'll see our portfolio there. We also are on social media with similar taglines on Instagram and Facebook, and we don't do a ton of marketing in that fashion because most of our customers are coming to some specific neighborhoods, and so we want to put our presence there and really have the expertise. It's not efficient, it's not wide ranging, but we know our niche, and that's where we spend the vast majority of our time, and that's why we're available on short notice for anyone that's looking to build in the Cliffs or the Reserve.
Fantastic. Well, perfect. Well, Drew, again, thank you. And you've been listening to the Think Big podcast. Be sure to check out the next one.